Welcome back to this incredibly special episode of Water Polo Wednesday. We will be covering the NCAA men's final coming up in just a few short days. We'll break down the brackets, make our picks, as well as cover the matchups top to bottom. And finally, we'll get into the strategies that we anticipate the coaches deploying to see how successful they are. And of course, an incredibly special guest, three-time national champ himself, an Olympic bronze medalist and recent LA Athletic Club and Ducko signee, Adrian Weinberg is joining us to break down the mentality it takes to win at the highest level. It's the NC2A breakdown on this episode of Water Polo Wednesday.
Welcome back to the final episode of the men's season coverage of Water Polo Wednesday with Wes and Clay. You're Wes.
I'm Wes. You're
and Clay. I'm Clay.
And that's Adrian.
And this is Adrian. So this is a special episode, as you may already be able to tell. Yeah. There's a ton to break down and discuss from last weekend. However, before we dive into the breakdown, we've got a super special guest here with us. The bronze medalist Adrien Weinberg has joined us. Welcome, Adrian.
Hello, guys. Thanks for having me on.
So meek and mild. I love it.
Yeah, he's a very humble guy. Adrian, always good to see you, buddy. It's awesome to have you here. What a year it's been for you. I mean, it's unbelievable, right? You went from winning NCAA championships, winning a bronze medal, playing now in Greece. Thank you for making time for us. You've been pretty busy.
Yeah, it's been busy, but I'm always willing to make time for you guys. But yeah, life has been good to me for sure this past year. So very grateful for what's been happening.
Yeah, for sure. Congrats again on winning the bronze medal, getting the men back to the podium, winning goalie of the tournament, and now dominating in Greece again. How has life been for you since winning a bronze medal? I imagine that it could impact your life in some ways, but I guess we're curious about the life of an athlete after having won an Olympic medal.
Yeah, so for me, what it looks like now, well, I'll start off more from when I actually finished the Olympics. So I had a couple weeks off, and then I had to go back. I'm back now, was back in Greece to get started for my season. For those who don't know, I play for the island of Chios, which is in Greece. We are in the A1 division, and so for those who don't know, there's two groups in the Greek league, Group A, Group B, and so right now my team is trying to fight for a spot in the top four of our group, and so the top four of each group, they play each other in the second half of season. My team, before I came last season, was in the bottom part of that group, so that we were playing the bottom four teams of Group A. Now it's looking like we're probably going to be in the top four of our group, which is a great step for us. I mean, this season for sure has been an amazing one. We recently tied Olympiacos. I don't know if anyone knows how serious that is. Look, for sure.
For those who don't know, it's serious.
Yeah, personally, I think we all are capable of it, but I mean, Olympiacos is an amazing team, amazing players. But considering, the budget, practices, we have guys on my team who are working on top of playing water polo, and then the guys on Olympiacos, strictly water polo, full athlete lifestyle. So we tied that game, and tying a game like that is very much David and Goliath. I mean, it was an amazing game. It's available to watch for people those who want to watch it. Mega.tv, I think, is the website, what it's called, if anyone wants to go watch that. But yeah, overall the season has been going great. Just getting ready for that second half of the season, as I talked about earlier. So yeah.
Yeah, super exciting, man, and really cool that you're able to share some of that. I think most people here in the States aren't aware of what goes on in any of the leagues outside of the U.S. It's hard enough for a lot of us to get access to the leagues here in the U.S., so that's really incredible. There's been some really big news of you signing with the LA Athletic Club and Ducko. You're the first Olympian since 1928 to sign with the LA Athletic Club. last time basically LA Athletic Club represented the United States in the Olympics. Talk to us about that decision and why you're so excited about it, why it's such a big deal to you.
I mean, there's a couple reasons why for sure. I mean, it's obvious that, a lot of guys on the Olympic team, a lot of great water polo players like going to places like the Olympic Club, NIAC, and it's very easy to go and do that. But I think that what the LA Athletic Club had to offer, and especially me being from Los Angeles and the Olympics being in Los Angeles in 2028, obviously no guarantee I make that team. That is the goal. But just being able to have a support group like that as I continue my water polo journey, I think is something that I really cared about when making a decision. There's obviously great guys at the New York Athletic Club, great guys at the Olympic Club, great clubs itself. But I think just what was best for me and what was going to help me most in my journey was for sure signing with LA Athletic Club. And it's such a huge honor to just be a part of it. I think that we can both help each other out immensely. And so, yeah, very excited to working with them, playing with them, and representing them.
It's unbelievable, Adrian. We're obviously very excited for you, for LA Athletic Club. You've changed the pattern of the way things have gone here in the United States, and it's exciting to see. It's great for the sport, great for parity, and a little more excitement building. Now, you've designed a couple of new suits here with Jimmy at Ducko as part of your agreement with Ducko. We'll share those here. The first one we want to talk about is the Adrian Holiday suit, which is super exciting. For those of you who haven't seen this, all these suits, both these suits we're going to show you today are available at ducko.us. And you'll be able to pre-order these. I've already pre-ordered mine. Be sure to get yours. Great stocking stuffers, right? Merry vibes, everybody. Got a Santa on there.
Ornaments. That's so good.
Yeah, it's amazing. Adrian, talk to us a little bit about this, the thought process before we get into this other suit. We got two suits to show today.
Yeah, I mean, just obvious. First off, working with Jimmy has been amazing. We're just talking about what the best ideas are, what we think is best in terms of, okay, what's our demographic, who are we going to be selling to? And, for something like this, I think it's a lot of like in your face, a lot of colors, want to do something for the younger group for sure. And so that's where the inspiration came for that and the next suit coming up. But yeah, just because Christmas is coming up, want to do something a little bit festive.
I love it. And so the other suit you call the Adrian Action suit. This is really cool, kind of a superhero look to it. I'm sure I've got the right one. There it is. This is amazing. You got the Olympic rings, as you did on the other one, and the banner across the top of both are the same with LA Athletic Club, the Olympic rings, your name, and Cal, of course. This is really cool. This is a ton of fun. Talk to us about this. What the vibe here is. What are we going for?
Yeah, I mean, again, talking about it with Jimmy, wanted something, that kind of portrays the idea what it's like to be a goalie. I mean, a lot of like just force, a lot of action, and that's kind of what's going on in this suit. So trying to just get that feel for it, and obviously have just what has been going on with me in terms of LA Athletic Club, what happened at Cal, and then obviously the Olympics. Having that in the front, and Jimmy actually came up with that logo, and I think it's super sick. I think it's really cool. So both of these suits I'm really excited about. We're working on one more together, not so much in your face kind of thing. A little bit. The thing we're working on now is a little bit more of a special because it has a lot to do with Cal. So I'm really excited about that one once it's finished. So yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And it's so cool now that we have the ability for you to create your own suit, wear your own suit, be a brand, right? Like build that brand up nationally, internationally, because you're in Greece, right? These, again, pre-order is open at ducko.us. Get as many of these as you can. They're great gifts. They're amazing. They're very unique. We've never really seen anything like this done before. And Adrian, you're really paving the way and being a little bit different than what we see in the past. So congrats to you. I love this. I'll stop sharing now. I know we'll keep going with the questions for you.
Yeah, that's such a big deal, man. Congrats on that. And I love these suits. Those are Really cool. I would love to have one when I was younger. I want one now, actually. I'll hit you up about that. So we're fully behind you and love that you're, I think, the first Olympian to have their own custom suit made, at least a U.S. Olympian. I can't speak for the Serbians. And that this is a, really just exclusive thing that you're able to do. So it's really cool to provide that opportunity. Um, I want to know a little bit more about what's going on now and playing in Greece professionally. A little bit, I think to make that more specific, I'd love to hear your experience from playing collegiate water polo at Cal and transitioning to playing professionally in Greece. What are like some of the major changes or differences that you're experiencing?
Yeah, for sure. I'll start with your last point about the differences between collegiate water polo and now. At Cal, obviously the focus was to be a student athlete. Even though water polo is very important, my studies were also super important, and that's where I spent a majority of my time and my focus. So there at Cal, maybe I had two practices one time a week. Here it's a little bit different. Uh, Most of my time is spent on water polo. Most of my energy is spent on water polo. Have two practices, maybe 3 times a week, maybe 4. So much more demanding on my body, much more demanding on my mind in terms of water polo. I mean, even though I don't have the school to focus on, the trade-off is I get to work more on myself, work on, like I said, my body, my mind, get rested for those double day practices. Yeah, very much the athlete lifestyle as opposed to at Cal where it was a student athlete lifestyle.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I think you're living out our dream. I would love to be training twice a day and only solely focused on water polo. And, good on you. You guys tied Olympiacos this season. It's great progression for your team. Obviously, that dedication is paying off. Now let's talk about the NCAA finals. You won 3 NCAA finals in your time at Cal, joining a very select group with 3 rings. Talk about the mindset needed for goalies specifically coming into this tournament. They tend to be pretty pivotal. It's so many more 5 meters these days. More 6-on-5s, a lot more, I think, on goalies than ever before with all the new dynamic rules that allow for man advantages.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of goalies, I think one of the big things that you just made a point on, there's a lot of things changing and, in my opinion, a little bit easier to score nowadays, especially with that box rule. You can be a little bit closer to the cage. Everyone's attacking more. And so more goals are going to get scored on you is just the fact of where our sport is now. And I think the most important thing to think about if I was playing then and what I would give as advice to goalies now is you're going to get scored on. It's how you reset your mind immediately after you get scored on. Are you going to dwell on it or are you going to let it bother you? And I think that's going to be the difference, down in those really important games with 2 minutes left. So maybe you're tied in that really important game. Are you going to let that goal, that ball that scored on you early in the game, are you going to let it bother you now when you're in crunch time? Or are you going to just, forget that it ever happened, still have that confidence? I think that, just not only in sport, but life in general, it's really important to just move on to the next thing, whatever happens. And so just being able to have the ability to move on really quickly, I think is super important that I think the goalies during this tournament will need. It's a long tournament for sure, especially if your team makes it all the way. So just staying level-headed is super important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 3 games, 3 days, it doesn't seem like a lot, but on our bodies, on our minds, it really is because you don't get much of a reset when taking on the next opponent. And so you've got the usual suspects of USC, UCLA. Stanford is back in this year after a 3-year hiatus, thanks in large part to you and your Bears beating them out. Do you have a pick, knowing what you know, on who you think may take it this year?
Yeah. I would say it'd be very disappointing if UCLA didn't take it all this year. Obviously no disrespect to the other teams. I just think a big part of this tournament and in general is that there is a little bit more pressure for sure, especially if your school hasn't won it or you haven't been a part of a championship team. You don't know exactly what that atmosphere is like. It definitely is different. Backs against the wall. It's win or go home. So obviously every single team is giving their best. And I think that for those type of moments, UCLA does have a good group, just first talented, very talented group, really well coached. But on top of that, they have guys who, including Chase and Ryder, who have been to bronze medal games in the Olympics. They've faced this kind of pressure before, if not even more high pressure situations. And you have guys who obviously played on the championship last year, a good amount of guys. So they're going to be thinking about those moments, thinking, okay, how can I improve those moments? Where can my mindset be for this year, say if they were to make it to the NCAA finals? So I would say I would bet on them for sure. But USC also gets super hot always at the end of each year. I don't know why they just get super hot. So, and they're playing well as of late. I would say UCLA, but USC has been playing super well too.
Yeah, fair, very fair. Adrian, going back to when you were talking about how you were, or your new lifestyle as a professional athlete in Greece, and having the studies on the side, if at all, I guess, well, not on the side, water polo is your study, and that kind of consuming your day, you're in the water a lot, you're trying to eat right, sleep well, rest well. You touched on that you're doing some mindset work as well. I'd love to hear a little bit more about what that looks like. I'm especially interested in mindset trainings for goalies because it can become such a psychological game for a goalie, more so than I think any other player that's in the water. So I'm curious about how you continue to train that side of yourself.
Yeah. So one thing that once I made Team USA, I think that one of the biggest things that I had to change in my game was my mental game. So I started reading a lot and just researching honestly about mindfulness and what that means, what that looks like in game, which high level athletes use that, and it's been great just finding out and learning about it. So when I'm in these like really high pressure games, it's really easy to get caught up in everything that's going on around you, and being able to stay centered is so important. But the question is, okay, how do you stay centered? People are always talking about, so just stay in the moment, just be centered, just stay focused. Okay, how do you do that? And it's really as simple as just, for me anyway, and for a lot of people, just focusing on your breath. And it sounds so simple, but the thing is, I don't know how many people during, super high pressure situations or even their day-to-day life, how much are people focusing on literally just their breath in those moments. And in those really high level games, when it's super like late in the game, we need a win, or, high pressure moment, whatever the case may be, I'm literally just trying to focus on my breath, because that's what's centering me into that moment. That's what's keeping me present. And so, for this weekend, I'm really excited to see generally how people, when those moments need, when people need to step up to the occasion, I'm wondering how they're going to be able to do that. I'm wondering, are they going to be present enough in the moment to, okay, I need to go hit this guy? Are they going to be present enough to realize, okay, I need to make that extra pass? Are they going to be present enough to realize that, I need to tell my teammate to go hit that guy? I need to tell him to go do this. So I think that mindfulness is just a big part of not just life, but especially our game, especially goalies. I mean, I've talked to Drew Holland about it, actually. And we talked about how goalie is a little bit like a pitcher in baseball. It's really easy to like get lost in like your own thoughts, because it's just you out there. And if you make a mistake, like for pitchers in baseball, that leads to a home run. And for you as a goalie, it's not like a defender or player playing offense. A mistake, they can just swim back or swim to offense. As opposed to us, a mistake on us is a goal, which is detrimental to the team. So being able to refocus, and what do you refocus on? For me, that's my breath. I think it's super important, super helpful. And I definitely have to give credit to my dad for showing me how to do that. He's always been talking to me about the mental stuff since I was a kid, and introducing me to this mindfulness has been amazing for me and my game. So, yeah.
Really appreciate you sharing that. That's awesome. You said you were doing some reading as well. Any book that you've read that was particularly influential?
Yeah, for sure. This one called The Mindful Athlete by George Mumford. It's a great book, incredible guy, incredible author. I mean, has worked with a lot of high-level athletes, and just listening to how he implements just this mindfulness stuff that seems so Buddhist and so like, how the hell is this going to help me in like a game? Yeah.
I love it.
Great.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Appreciate you sharing that. I think that's great advice, great insight for, I mean, everybody, not just young kids. I think anybody who's in the sport, staying present, staying focused on the breathing, that mindset is so important to staying cool and calm and collected in those high pressure moments. Adrien, it's always great to see you. I'm so excited for you this season, this suit that we've talked about, what's to come for Team USA and the goal. I mean, dude, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. It's been amazing, catching up again and seeing you. Good luck. I know you've got a second half of the season coming up, so good luck, and hopefully you guys make it into that, that as far as you can, if you will, that playoff, that Final Four playoff.
Yeah, I'll just explain it for people who don't know. So the way it works in the Greek League, we have two groups, Group A, Group B, each group with 8 teams. So, for example, my group, it has Olympiakos. People have probably heard of that team. Olympiakos, Apollon, PAOK, us, and like 4 or 5 other teams. In the other group, they have teams like, you probably heard of Vouliagmeni, Panathinaikos, Panionios, other good teams, right? And so the way it works in the Greek League, if you do well in the first half of season, the top 4 teams from each group play each other. Bottom four teams from each group play each other. So right now we're at a spot where we're trying to get 3rd. Right now we're kind of maybe set for 4th in our group. And so the second half of the season, we're going to be playing against the top other 7 teams in Greece. So it's going to be very exciting. I'm very excited. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. Good luck, and hopefully you make it into that top group. I think Hungary now employed a similar model. So there's like a first round robin, if you will, and then a second round robin grouping. So good luck, buddy. Yeah. And of course, when you're back in the States, we'd love to see you. Thank you so much for being on the show. No doubt this will be one of the most popular episodes we have, Adrien.
I hope so. All right. Thank you, guys. Care, appreciate
Thanks
it.
for your time. Man, that again, I feel like these interviews somehow keep getting better and better. Adrien's such a great person, humble, genuine guy. If you ever see him around the deck, say hi. And those suits are freaking sick. So if you are wondering what to get, your water polo buddies or your kids who are water polo athletes or aspiring water polo athletes, goalies or not, be sure to check out those suits. You can go to ducko.us to find Adrien's suit. Now, back to the topic at hand for the past few weeks is the NCAA championship tournament. Wes, as always, you've spent considerable time breaking down the teams, and we considered doing this in pieces, but felt like one longer episode. We kind of did the multi-conference breakdown, so we're trying a different format of all one lump sum before the NCAA tournament, and that'd be a little bit of fun. So let's dive in.
Yeah, so I'm super excited about this, and again, get those suits pre-ordered. What a cool way to like celebrate our Olympians, but also support our Olympians. And I mean, they're unique, right? It's an Olympic player suit. We've never had that before, so really excited about that. Clay, I'm actually going to throw this back to you. I realize that the NCAA tournament is in a couple of days, but so is the Bob Neely Memorial Cup, and right. I realize it's not the magnitude of an NCAA tournament, but it is the largest club-hosted men's and women's water polo event in the country. And I just want to take a moment personally and thank you and the team of guys it takes to put this thing on. For those of you who don't know out there, Clayton and I started the Bob Neely Memorial Cup back in 2016 when Bob, who was my first water polo coach, passed away from lymphoma cancer, and we did this in his honor. It was something we really felt compelled and inspired to do. An amazing tournament. Now the largest we've ever had it at 51 teams. So Clayton, thank you for all that you do for this. I know that it's a labor of love, man.
It is a labor of love. Indeed. We're really excited and really, really grateful. I'll keep saying it over and over again for most things that I'm involved with is that it takes a village. I can't do this without the support that I have locally around me and without the support and enthusiasm of the water polo community and all the team leaders that put in their effort to herd their cats to get their teams here for this tournament. All proceeds going to various charities, whether it's going to lymphoma cancer research or towards the LA Water Polo Foundation. It's just great. It's a great cause. This tournament is very near and dear to us. This is our 8th annual, and a lot of hours have gone into it, and it's not something that we can just rinse and repeat every year. There seems to be new logistical factors or challenges or hurdles or aspirations that make it something we have to kind of custom build every single year. And we pride ourselves in putting just the best experience possible with the social everything and great pools and good organization and communication and a competitive and fun environment.
Yeah, and for those of you who want to donate, aren't able to play, or don't have a team, and you want to be able to contribute to the cause, you can always go to the LA Athletic Club website. There are ways to donate there. Again, it all goes to the LA Water Polo Foundation or Lymphoma Cancer Research, supporting the growth of men's water polo in Southern California and frankly all over. And such an unbelievable undertaking, Clay. I know how much you continue to do for the sport. It does take a village, but there's always a village chief. And so it's really remarkable what I've witnessed you personally do. So thank you for that. So now, enough blowing up your ego, on to the matchups here. So to start, his head's so big now. I'll take the easy road and say UCLA is going to beat Salem. Salem, I did a little bit of research on Salem. They lost to Fordham this year as well as Navy. Gives you a little bit of idea on their level of play. They're basically all foreigners, but they'll get UCLA, who's going to be all business. I'm curious about, honestly, the big curiosity I have here, because I think UCLA will cruise, but who's going to be in the goal for UCLA? They went to Tauscher up in NorCal versus Stanford. They pulled Griggs in the 4th versus Cal. Tauscher played all of their Stanford win. They went back to Griggs for the MPSF tournament, but midway through the championship game against USC, they went back to Tauscher. So the question that's going to need to get answered is going to be who's going to be that goalie in the cage for them. That's one of the more pivotal positions. You can lose a defender here or shooter here. You can't lose Ryder Dodd. But I also think knowing who your goalie is very, very important coming into an NCAA tournament, as Adrian just talked about.
Yeah, it's interesting about the goalie situation. Such a key position that needs to be locked down in that first game. I mean, need can be subjective and teams can adjust, and it's not a position you just want to have up in the air, right? Because it's not just confidence for the goalie themselves, but also for the team at large. Like, the team wants to have confidence at every position, and if you could choose one position to not have be up in the air, it's your goalie. Talk to us then about the second match, Stanford versus Princeton, the 4 and 5.
Yeah, this is tough. Okay, I've watched Princeton in person a number of times. I've obviously watched Stanford quite a bit. This is an incredibly difficult matchup to predict. Princeton, the keys for Princeton are going to be on the offensive. Well, the keys for Princeton on the offensive end, because I think there's keys on both ends for them. They need to shoot about 50%. They need to be about 14 to 16 goals to win, and it's going to come down to their man advantage. And frankly, I'd call out two guys that can cause a ton of chaos for Stanford. It's not the obvious ones of Roko Pizarich or Posaric or Mitrovic. I think it's going to be Gavin Appledorn and Adam Page. Both have been studs for them all year. Appledorn can finish his shots from the perimeter. The game against UCLA, they took him to overtime. Appledorn was hot. And then when he got cold, UCLA took the lead. And so that's going to be really key for them. All right. He plays the 4 on the man advantage, and they run a lot of movements, a lot of double posts. They really force the defenses back. I think Stanford's going to have a tough day at the office if they let him get going. And then for Page, he's going to be matched up with the X1, X2 for Stanford, which usually Stanford runs a drop. So they call X4, X5 drop, right? So Page, the lefty, will be on that 4-5 side. So sorry, it'll be their X4, X5. Page, the lefty, on the 4-5 side. A very good shooter. He's a Hungarian. Very deadly. If he gets going, that's also going to be really key for Princeton, because Roko is going to get his. Mitrovic is going to take his shots. And the other thing is, I think we have to consider here is Stanford's offense isn't anything that's like high flying like a USC necessarily. They're very structured. Flax is very system oriented. He prioritizes his defense over offense. But when he needs to get a goal, he runs a specific line. And this was interesting. I went back, I watched a lot of film from MPSF. He runs a specific line. Dash McFarland in the middle. He'll either have Chase McFarland or Baton, 1-2 with Jensen. He'll have Parrish defending, Pittman and Painter on the 4-5. So when you see that line rolled out, you know he's thinking, we need a goal. That line is ultra productive. In 3 possessions against USC with that line, they scored every single time. That line only played 3 possessions together that whole game. They scored every single time. Okay? Most of the time it's Dash. Well, in those 3, Dash scored twice and Baton scored once. Everybody knows that. They can't stop it. So you'll notice that if Princeton were to take a little bit of a lead or Flax feels like he can go get one, that's the line they're going to go to, right? To me, this is Stanford's game to lose. They're very talented, very, very organized. Princeton, a similar structured team. I think Litvack comes from that same school of thought that Flax does. And they've got some good pieces. I also think goalie play is going to be a huge deciding factor on the defensive end for Princeton. Kovacs needs to get like 15 to 17 saves. So he's going to have to be 55 to 60% save percentage. And ideally, those are coming from the outside. If Georgie gets going, if Dash gets going on the interior, it's a long day for Princeton. They're going to need some field blocks like Stanford gets quite a bit. Can't allow those centers of Stanford to get going. I think they're too much for Princeton to handle. I know Mitrovic is good, but like a little bit like UOP, you only have one of those guys. Like you don't have a whole host of guys that can play defense the way Mitrovic does. So you got to be careful there. It's just not the easiest thing in the world to match up with Georgie or Dash. In the end, Clay, I'm picking Stanford to win this matchup. They are at home. I think it'll be close. And they'll move on to play UCLA in the second round.
Got it. So you think not a walk in the park, but Stanford does prevail despite how good Princeton has been all year.
Yeah, Princeton's been great all year. I've been very impressed with Princeton, but I do think Stanford wins. Is there a chance Princeton pulls this out? Absolutely. You can't rule them out at all. I think this
season.
I think there's a chance they beat Stanford. I really do. I not be surprised at all if they beat Stanford, but Stanford is at home. They've been very good this year. It's the first NC2A chance for Flax here, so it's going to be interesting to see how he plays this whole matchup and his lines. I know Wes Temkin coming over from Princeton, he'll likely have something to prove. A lot of motivations maybe we're unaware of, but this to me is the toughest matchup of the tournament to kind of predict, if you will. Again, Stanford wins that game, but Princeton shows they're for real. They're a good team. They're a top, 5-6 team consistently the last couple of years. So good for them.
Yeah. So Stanford would take on UCLA after that, which is tough, but someone has to play them in the semifinal.
Yeah. Somebody's got to play UCLA in the semifinal. They do. Stanford, it does get UCLA in that semifinal. Unfortunately, Stanford's run ends here, in my opinion. Look, I get that Stanford beat them early in the year. I think there's something about this Stanford team that I think is overlooked, and that's sometimes the speed. I think they'd have a better chance of winning if they played more offense oriented, because you got to figure Stanford's defense will get some stops, but you're not going to stop Ryder Dodd no matter really who's playing. Okay. And I know that their focus is defense. I get that. I think Ryder Dodd gets moved back to the 4-5. I think Adams like, here, we're going to put him on 4-5 and match up over there. And you figure if you're not going to be able to stop Ryder, you might as well get some offense out of the guys that are in the pool, right? In order to do that, you have to play Dash a ton in this game. And I mean a ton. Like, he has to be 4 minutes a quarter if he can handle that load. And there's 2 reasons for this. So again, watching a ton of film, there's a couple of things that UCLA does it's going to make life pretty tough for Stanford. Dash is fast enough to keep up with the defenders of UCLA. Okay? He can hold water very well, but he's also fast enough if in the event there's a turnover or they don't get an exclusion or whatever it may be, to keep up with the defenders of UCLA. That's a really important thing. The second is he gives you a very good chance of scoring. Again, that line scored 3 out of 3. He's strong enough to take on Vogenthaler Tierney, and Larson, which is a very difficult task. They're big boys. And Vogan Taylor is so fast. Tierney is very quick. Vogan Taylor is elite for defenders in terms of speed. And if you go Georgie here, if Stanford goes here, we're going to bring in Georgie. He may score a time or two because he's such a big load, so tough to manage. But if he misses or there's a turnover going the other way, Georgie's dead. These guys are so fast. And with all due respect to Georgie, it's a long way for him to go. It's a lot of body to move. What his benefit is on offense is his size turns into a detriment and that Achilles heel going the other way. And Clay, remember how fast Jeff Tyrell was? Like how much you hated. You remember you used to complain about how fast Jeff Tyrell was.
So
right?
strong.
So strong.
So damn fast. You just get absolutely blasted trying to set on the guy, and then he's taken off on the counter. You're like, I don't like this.
Yeah, it's not fun for centers when center defenders are fast. Vogan Taylor is that guy. Okay, he's not only fast, he's also an all-out effort guy. So where some guys might be fast and like, okay, take their time to get around you, this dude goes all out all the time. And when you apply that kind of effort to his level of intelligence and skill, good luck. Dash, to me, gives Stanford the best chance to win this game because they must control the middle and get production. You have to control the middle against UCLA. Their guys are on the perimeter too quick, too smart. You have to force them into drops. Otherwise, you're dead going the other way anyways, right? I'd call out Carzalate. He's been great for them. He is a special player. This guy, I love this guy's game. He loves the game. He's willing to do whatever it takes, has that no fear attitude. He's a killer. He's somebody who just rises up and just takes on kind of that adversity. And his attitude in the pool is what I would liken to like he would walk on a bed of coals to win. And it's hard to teach that, right? He's got such an engine. I watched, Adam was frustrated with some of the play. Carzalate goes back in and just bullies people. His movement without the ball is elite. Like, he's very good. And then you've got Ryder Dodd. I mean, the guy's remarkable. Like, I wouldn't even call him a driver, Clay, because he could set. He could defend. He can post up. He's an elite outside shooter. There's like nothing this guy does not well. Like, you've heard the phrase, a jack of all trades, a master of none. Ryder's a master of everything. It's incredible. And the world knows how good he is. Like, this isn't shocking to anybody. Okay? And yet nobody can stop him. And in the game versus USC, he and Wade Sherlock carried UCLA in the first quarter versus USC. But UCLA too deep here, too strong. I think if the lines and approach of Stanford stay consistent with what they've done the last couple of games, I'll be candid with you, I don't think it's close. I do think it's a bit of a blowout, and UCLA knows that they can kind of turn the screws on this Stanford team. I've been very impressed with Stanford. Again, I think they've played really well. And, the way that they won in that first game was counterattack and speed. And then they basically, they got it out to a very early lead, a good lead, and they kind of traded goals with UCLA the rest of the way. And USC started to extend their lead on Stanford just when, Stanford's kind of attitude just kind of dropped. And so they're not a team that does well to play from behind. And if you can't control the middle against UCLA, you're going to have a very tough day at the office because they are so strong. And I just think that Stanford, just not enough here. Great team, great season for them. Just not enough. And I don't think the percentages they'd have to shoot are realistic. I think Pittman and Jensen probably have to shoot like 60 to 70% shoot. I think they have to go 7 to 10. And that's unrealistic. It's a brutal matchup to face UCLA in the semifinal. And it proves that loss to USC in the MPSF tournament was a tough blow. Tough blow to Stanford to get UCLA in the semifinal here.
Yeah. You got UCLA in the finals. Not surprising. It's been and would be no matter what a great season for Stanford to get this far after not having made the NCAA tournament the past 3 years. On the upswing, though, next year without all these seniors, it'll be really interesting. We can cover that in 6 to 8 months. We are going now to take a quick break and come right back to discuss the other side of the bracket. Don't go anywhere.
It gets easier. Look at this pass. West Hempkins reading it. He thinks he'll shoot, but a long all the way across the pool. 1-6-7 skips and underneath. Bernardo Hertzer's layup out by the lefty center out of Cathedral Catholic, San Diego. And he
All right, welcome back. In this segment, Wes, let's cover USC versus CBU and Fordham versus Long Beach State University.
Yeah. It's exciting, isn't it? First off, CBU, USC. You look at this matchup and you kind of go, easy breezy, USC is the pick, no problem. You're not wrong. It's the obvious choice, right? Except CBU might be crazy enough to believe they can win this game.
We've seen obvious choices before this season.
We've seen obvious choices fall plenty of times. I don't think CBU wins this game more than once every 10, and it'll take belief. Every coach knows that if you believe in yourself, anything is possible. Princeton nearly took down UCLA this year and Stanford last year. They believe they could do it, which is what makes that matchup on the other side so interesting to me. Again, I think that Stanford-Princeton matchup is fascinating. Question becomes, does CBU believe they can win? I know USC believes they can and should win. I believe they'll win, and that'll be it for CBU, but I'm not sure how CBU feels about that, right?
Yeah. So regardless, it's a great run for CBU, and accomplishing what they've accomplished is incredible. They've never really done this before outside of a COVID season, right?
Right, yeah. It's really cool and very happy for them. It's great for water polo. Maybe some other time they upset USC, but not with how USC is playing right now, coming off that MPSF championship win. They win at every positional battle, I believe. They're the best team I've seen all year. They're playing well at the right time together. We've seen two faces of USC. We've seen the bad of USC and we've seen the good of USC. I want to believe they're going to bring that good. And, if they bring the bad, it's going to be a tough day for them. Might be pretty frustrating. They still do have the best goalie, I believe, in the nation, at least right now, with Bernard Hertzer. I know that Wes Temkin is really good, as is Garrett Griggs. Hertzer right now, it feels like he's just on a different level going into this tournament.
Yeah, such a huge advantage to have a goalie like Hertzer who can move the way that he does. He had 7 steals against Stanford, something like that.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And that's kind of an opposite situation of a UCLA where you have that flagpole. You can just dig into the sand. So our goalie is solid, and that can give that whole team a defense confidence throughout the tournament. Let's move on to Fordham and Long Beach. It's time. This is the match. I mean, there are lots of exciting games, and I think this is one of the most exciting games that we'll see. We finally get to see this crossover of Fordham onto these, West Coast teams. Everyone's going to be watching. Give us the breakdown.
Yeah, this is fascinating to me. First off, Fordham is lightning fast. They're so fast. They might be the fastest team in the country, right there with UCLA. They're smaller than UCLA. So let's, for argument's sake, give Fordham the quickness edge. Luca Provenciani is a driver, top 3-1-2 side driver in the United States with Chase McFarland, I believe, and Christian Hosea at a Pep. Again, we talked about Ryder Dodd in the last segment. I don't consider him a driver just because he's like this super utility player and special at that. So I'll label Ryder as an attacker and Provenciani as a driver because his role is to create movement in space and draw exclusions and force defenses into really uncomfortable.
A driver is different. Yeah.
Yeah. And a pure driver, right? He's a pure driver. He'll be going up against the 4-5 side of Long Beach. Been solid all year. Mark Frigola was good last year. He's good again this year. Former teammate of Robert Duarte at CNB. Bruno Chiappini out of Brazil, both very solid players. They'll be very physical with Provenciani and Andras Toth, but those are international players. Like nothing that Bruno or Frigola is going to bring at Provenciani and Toth is going to surprise them. Like this is the difference kind of between the international game and the U.S. game is that the physicality that these players are used to far more in Europe. And so on the 1-2 side for Long Beach, you've got Evan Kane, who's been solid for them all year as that focal point, with Caleb Francisco, who has also had a very good year. Both can score. Both play very well on defense. I'm curious to see how Fordham attacks Long Beach. Okay, and if Long Beach goes, on the defensive side for Long Beach, do they go into a drop or do they press early on and kind of play a little Russian roulette? Because if they press and they get beat on drives, it could be a very long day. It'll depend on how Jontic and Coutinho defend. If they're going to front Long Beach will press. If they're going to like play from behind there, Long Beach will drop. And so that's going to be that matchup's going to be fascinating to me, how the strategy component of things, because they're two pretty different teams. You don't see Long Beach being this like ultra fast driving team. They're a bit bigger. On Long Beach's offensive side of things, you've got Corbin Stanley and Gabby Acosta in the center. Both very good centers, as we've seen. Both a big reason why they won the Big West. Now, believe it or not, Clay, those two centers not only lead Long Beach in goals, they're 1 and 2 at Long Beach, they actually lead the Big West in goals. So Gabby's number 1 in the Big West in goals. Stanley, I think, is number 7. They're both true freshmen. Can you imagine that? This is nuts to have not 1, but 2 true freshman centers who can score like that, lead your team in scoring. My goodness. That's crazy talk. Stanley draws a lot of exclusions, and once again, Gavin Arroyo has centers he works for. Fordham is going to have their hands full. I talked to Brian Baccarat, the coach of Fordham, earlier this past week. He's becoming very aware of just how good these centers are. I think this is quite candidly the worst possible matchup for Fordham. I do. I think they're better against zone-oriented teams because they drive through it. They can just slice it up. We'll see what Long Beach comes out with. I honestly, if I'm Fordham, I prefer to play a Princeton who they've beaten a couple of times, or Stanford, quite candidly. But you get who you get, and we'll see how they approach it. Long Beach has played against UCSD. They played against UCI, which are more movement-based teams, so Long Beach will be certainly ready for this. We know Fordham has a very high ceiling with all their foreigners, very experienced team as well. Question is, can they show up after traveling all the way out here? It's a long way to go. It's a long way to go. Across the country, Long Beach is going an hour flight. These guys from Fordham are going 6 hours, and it's going to be tough. Gavin is a good coach, man. He's going to have his team ready. They're going to be gritty. They're going to be rough. They were always tough to play. They're always pretty ruthless. They're kind of like, these savages. Like, they like the physicality. These are guys that want to grind and want to get bodied and whatever else. They're very tough dudes. And I think Kane and Acosta and Stanley are no different. They're tough guys. That whole team seems to bring a sense of physicality, a sense of toughness, which I think is part of the reason that they were that they won the Big West. I think they surprised a lot of teams with how physical they got in that tournament.
Yeah. I love this. I love how you know so much about these guys. Like, you could just, you know, it's a little bit more when someone could read like a stat report on these games and be able to talk about it, but actually speaking to the playing style and the positional play of each of these guys, I appreciate it. I'm sure a lot of other people listening to this do as well. So make your pick here. Who do you have moving on to play USC in the semifinal?
Yeah, this can surprise some people. I think I've gotten a lot of texts from people saying that Long Beach is going to smash them, Fordham isn't the real deal, whatever else. I mean, look, I get it. I think if Long Beach is very good, you don't win the Big West.
They might be right.
They might be right. But I'm sticking with Fordham. I think they have the speed to test Long Beach. It's going to drive them nuts. Long Beach more of a set offense, set defense type of team. I think the outside shooting of Fordham is elite. And I mean elite. I think they're underrated. Andra Toth has himself a day. Well, the center of Fordham, he's not Gabby Acosta, but he's good enough that I don't think Long Beach can handle him 1v1. And so I think they're going into a drop. I think the movement of Fordham makes it really miserable for Long Beach with their outside shooting. And I think that Fordham puts them on skates, jumping left and right and getting out of position. I think they're going to frustrate Long Beach State centers with the drops and dynamic movement of Fordham's defense. And it's not to say that Long Beach State centers won't get going. I think that they will. But Fordham, like, let's say Long Beach puts up 14 goals. I don't think that bothers Fordham. I think Fordham puts up 18. Right? They're okay giving up goals because they score so many goals. And they're gonna force Long Beach into some bad positions and force them to press where, we'll see how Long Beach faces that adversity. How do they do when the score, it's a kind of a shootout and Fordham's lighting up the scoreboard? Because if they shoot well, they're going to roll. And I think it's a tight game till half. And then Fordham is just too much for them, too much speed to keep up with. I think Fordham wins by 5 goals. I don't think this ends up being that close, like a 17-11, a 16-12, something like that, 15-10, somewhere in there. And Fordham, their run continues into the NC2A semifinals would be my pick.
Okay, Fordham continues the run. Exciting. It would be very exciting for water polo for sure. And what a story that'd be continued on. They got Cal last year in their first matchup, right?
Yeah, they did. Obviously, they lost to Cal because Cal won the whole thing. They've come back stronger this year. Yeah. They've come back stronger this year with 2 insanely talented freshmen in Andras Toth and Luca Provenciani. We got to talk to both of them earlier this year. Great conversation with those guys. I think they did a great job on camera. We got to talk to them quite a bit more off camera. Just very nice to get to know these guys. Clay, as we wind this thing down, I think it's been so nice to reflect. It's been such an honor to meet so many of these great athletes and great people, from coaches to players. It's really been special. Learning more about their program as a whole, who they are. I'm thrilled for these guys. I love the story. I love the mindset they bring of wanting this badly to prove it to everyone. They're totally aware that people are counting them out. Oh, they're a Mid-Atlantic team. They're not that good and whatever else. Look, they got a lot of seniors. There's a lot of pride here. They're foreigner-led, and they're talented foreigners, right? So I think in key moments like these, that passion, that fire could and will carry this team into the semifinals this year.
And if it does, there awaits USC.
Yeah.
My goodness. So we will see what kind of metal Fordham is made of in this Long Beach matchup. And if they do advance past Long Beach, I think this would certainly be one of the most exciting matches of the weekend.
Yeah, I think people will start to believe a little bit,
right?
Hopefully. Look, this isn't the matchup you want if you're Fordham, but it's the matchup you've got. They match up way better with Stanford than USC. USC is very good at drive defense. They pass off very well. They're very smart and structured as well as positioned. So how do you beat fast teams? You outswim them. No joke, right? Fast players hate it when other players are fast because it takes away the advantage they're used to having. Okay? And it's like big guys don't want to be bullied. There's a pride thing there, right? It makes big guys miserable. So I think for Fordham, it's a couple of things to be successful here. First, you got to identify where Luka Brnicic is at all times. You've got to get him away from guarding your center because I think at his length, it's going to be tough. I don't think USC has to run on drops. So you've got to do something to get him out of the middle. Brnicic and Cohen are going to do everything they can to shut down the center play of Fordham. So I think Fordham has to find other ways to score and create, get those guys to switch out of guarding center. Fordham may take a page out of Stanford's book and go to their big guy, James Orsikovich, who's a UCSB graduate transfer. I think he's like 6'9" and a solid like 280. He's a big guy. And then maybe they go huge in the middle. They'll force Brnicic out of the game with exclusions, and then, maybe you have a little trouble coming back. That didn't seem to test Stanford as much. Like, I don't think USC was trying to counter out that center too much. Maybe they do this time around. As we, with their defense, any adjustment there, a little more risk reward because Orsikovich, like Georgie, it's going to take him a minute to get back to defense, but they're going to need to drive to break the zone of USC, which again, that's not an easy task. Candidly, the best way for USC to win this game is to bait USC into bad shots from the outside, get some solid blocks from their goalie and their center defender able to counter out. Because I think they're the one team I think can counter everyone. If Fordham is. I don't think there's a team in the country that Fordham can't counter. Like, they're not only fast, Clay, but they anticipate very well. So, like, very quick with those first 3 strokes, and they're ready to go. And that sets teams back quite a bit. Like, if you know a guy is going to counter you, you start to cheat back to defense a little bit. Maybe you go from 6 meters to 7. Well, we've talked about the disadvantage of shooting from 7 meters. It's a long ways away. And if you're thinking about defense, maybe you're on your back. That's a bad shooting position. Very low percentage shots. And I think that Fordham, if they can get into the head of USC, it's dude, I think it's going to be a great game. I do. Yeah. This is what you want to see, right? Yeah. This is what we wanted to see all year.
Yeah. So to recap, it's the speed of Fordham that is their advantage, and not necessarily on the set offense piece, but the
Yeah.
counterattack and just early in the possession play.
Yeah, right. They have to move a ton early on, move the ball quick, and if they're able to do so, they'll get better looks, but then they have to beat Hertzer, which we've seen is no easy task at all. I think, once again, his goalie play is going to be so important here, as it really always is. The goalie position, the one guy who faces the same direction the whole time, he always sees the whole field. With the way Fordham fires the ball, Hertzer's going to have to be ready to jump from the jump, man. He's going to be ready to rumble right from the start, because Fordham is going to come out ripping. Again, they have some very, very good shooters on that team.
Yeah. If you got a team with great shooters, you would want Bernardo back there. Talk to us a bit how USC might approach this game and how they're going to apply their tactics to it.
Yeah, so I think it's more of the same for USC. The approach they took versus UCLA, the right one that would work very well here. They won't have to drive a ton, because I think Max Miller and Jack Martin are going to draw a ton of attention. Maybe the best center duo in the United States of any team, right? You talk about how good Long Beach's center duo is. Jack Martin and Max Miller are they were both top recruits coming out of high school. So to have both of those on the same team is truly amazing. I know that Stanford has Georgie and Dash, but they don't utilize them the same way. I don't think they look at them the same. They don't go to them as much. UCLA has Pete Castillo. I think he's tremendous, but these two guys are both top tier centers, and they push defenders back. Okay, which is going to open things up from the outside, like Duarte. For guys like Duarte, Patino, Vort has been very good of late. Very impressed with Vort, right? And a couple of really key goals, good passing from him on the 4-5 side there. And Brankovic, the list kind of goes on. Grigorovic, right? If the wings of USC can get deep, like we saw versus Stanford and UCLA, Fordham is in for a very long match, because it's going to extend the distance that Fordham's going to have to swim to get back to defense. And it gets those shooters from USC to that 5-meter, 6-meter line. And I know Fordham's goalie is good, but Wes Temkin is better. And they lit West up in their last match and knocked out Griggs and did very well versus Tauscher. So it tells you how good these guys are when they're in good shooting positions. I don't think it matters who the goalie is, because those three are all solid goalies. It's going to be a very long day at the office for Fordham if USC can kind of capitalize on the advantages that they've got and get themselves deep.
Yeah. So USC has the size and strength.
Yeah.
Fordham has the speed. And would you say that they have the outside shooting advantage?
I don't know if I'd call it an advantage, right? Because both of these teams have elite outside shooting. They've got some great shooters on both teams. I think it's tough to say. I think it comes down to who makes their shots on the day. It's a make-a-shot league, right? I'll say if USC gets deep, I think they have a better chance of getting deeper and then their shooting percentage would go up. Those centers will be pivotal in getting that defense back and opening things up for those shooters. And they'll have a higher shooter percentage than Fordham, just because they'll be closer to the goal. Fordham doesn't rely on their center as much, and they don't have a second center that really compares to their first. I mean, they're just not as deep. Fordham uses driving to push their opposing teams back to the defense. They'll drive a lot, 21 drives, 41 drives. They'll do some cross stuff. So I think that's important to remember, that where they're shooting from is really, really important. If Fordham's able to attack and get themselves closer to the goal, this game could go either way, to be honest with you.
Yeah. All right. So then, knowing all that, it's pick time.
Yeah. I'm not making a pick for this, because I want to see this play out. I don't want any bias. I just think that this is a tremendous matchup to watch. And as a fan at this point, because I'm not commentating, this is exciting. This is so much fun to watch these guys get out, right? And you can hear it in my voice. I'm genuinely pumped up about watching this, assuming both teams win, because there's a chance they don't, on Saturday.
Okay. No pick, for the love of the game.
No pick. Yeah. Sorry. It's been an extraordinary season, hasn't it, Clay?
It has been. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's been incredible. And a blast to live through it kind of twice, it was watching it and then conversing about it, analyzing it with you has been really incredible.
Yeah, well, it's been a real privilege for myself, and I know for you, Clay, to have this opportunity to bring all this action to everybody all season long. It's very fortunate. This is our final episode. We'll be right back with some closing remarks. And again, thank you to Adrian. Be sure to check out those suits. Very, very cool. So we'll be right back right after this.
And that concludes episode 12. If we're not counting the sub episodes of the conference interviews leading into conference championships. Wes, what a journey.
Yeah. It's been tremendous, Clay. I think when we started this, we were shocked that we got through 4. And here we are. We've done well over 12 episodes because of the breakdowns. Yeah. And I appreciate you and your wife for dedicating the time to this. It's been tremendous. And of course, my wife, who
absolutely,
it's just such a, everybody loves my wife. I just think that that's great. And it's been truly amazing. It's been truly amazing to bring this to everybody. The feedback we've received has been tremendous. I can't begin to express or articulate like what it means for people to be sending us the emails that we get and the commentary we get on different blogs. And a Water Polo Exchange has been a lot of commentary about it, and we love it, guys. We do, and we love this.
Hey, your Water Polo Wednesday.
Yeah, I got to find another hour to go to the gym, but it's been a lot of fun, and we do love it. I think the teams. I hope. We wish everybody well. It's been such a great season, and the competition's been at the highest I think it's been in a long time. And so we appreciate that, because really without it, we don't have much to talk about. So everybody who watches, please be sure to stay tuned. We're not sure really where we're going from here, as we weren't sure how far we'd make it into it. And so a little bit of flying by the seat of our pants, and that's kind of the way we like to do it, because it does keep it exciting for everybody.
One way to put it.
But again, thank you, Clay. Thank you for all you've done throughout this season, and all the people who have watched and the live stream and been a part of this. So thank you to everybody who's continued to contribute and give feedback. It's meant a lot to us.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you all very much. And whenever we put out another episode, be sure to tune in to Water Polo Wednesday.